Let's talk about Ubisoft. Ubisoft. They are the developers that will come to your party. They will have all the drinks for you. They'll have a drink for every developer in that room because they just love you. They love working with Nintendo. They love working with Xbox. They like working with PlayStation. They like working with They like working with even the ones that didn't quite get to the party. They invited them to the party. Like, hey, I know that you didn't want Stadia to be here, but you know, I picked them up. I was like, hey, give them a chance. They're not that bad. They're not bad people. You know, Ubisoft has always been that company that like just likes working with everybody because that was the big difference growing up with Ubisoft against EA. EA always go with wherever the power is or where the money goes, we're gonna go there. Ubisoft is like, brother, we got you. We gonna work with you too. Let's do. You know what? Look, this game might not be for you, but you and I, we can do something together. Let's do something together. You and me. Let's work on a project. It's like, you know, I gotta give Ubisoft credit. You know, they're the ones that did the Mario Rabbids, which I would never saw that coming. You know, from them, they're like, here, you know, look, you're not gonna get the new Assassin's Creed. You're not gonna get the new Watch Dog, but Mario Rabbids doing well.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. If Ubisoft is the person you invite to a party, they're the ones who bring 3-liter drinks for everybody, but they're all drinks that you can tell they bought at Sam's or Dollar General. Is like, I
Sam's
asked for
choice.
Dr. Pepper. You brought me Dr. Thunder. You know,
hey, Dr. Thunder. Hey, I can't not go. I like Dr. Thunder. I like Dr. Thunder.
Yeah, okay, that's great. I asked for Dr. Pepper. You know, it's like, or I asked for Coca-Cola. You brought me cola.
Ubisoft will say, "Hey, did you buy it? Take the damn drink."
And that's why Ubisoft gets side-eyed every time they arrive.
Yeah.
And they never bring napkins and plates when they're asked. Or they're the type that'll bring the soda and they don't bring a sack of ice. I
brought my part. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, I bought ice for me. You want some ice? You give me some money. I'll give you some of this ice.
You and me, let's work on something. Where can we go get some ice together? You and me, let's go get some ice together. No, the reason I talked about Ubisoft because Ubisoft in the last couple of years has been going in this weird direction, and I'm not talking about like the whole fiasco with the sexual harassment or all that stuff. That's a different story. I'm talking about more of in the game development of this path of a mixture of new experimental ideas that are just not working out to them, to games that have been announced and there's no update about them, games that me personally didn't know exist, that doesn't exist anymore. Like Ubisoft has this weird thing, and I kind of want to talk about and kind of get the bottom of it between just you and I. I'm talking about like what is going on over there with the studio with so many hands and so many jars of stuff, and it's like I can't think of another studio that has, and I'm talking about just a third party, just a one studio place. And I'm not talking about like, you know, like a Microsoft with 10 different studios, because Ubisoft has a lot of different studios under them. They just put Ubisoft in front of them. I mean, they're Ubisoft and name a country. Ubisoft Turkey, Ubisoft Russia, Ubisoft, like, you know, like go to Wikipedia. It's like literally Ubisoft, like name a country. Like it's pretty crazy. But they're the only studio I know that are just, it seems like they're doing so many things at once, and it feels like they are wearing themselves very thin. So, especially with one of the news of some games that got canceled, some games that got delayed, and whatnot. Before we go into that list, I want to ask you, Jaron, have you noticed any, like, just a different path or different things they've been doing, you know, for the last couple of years leading to now, just some weird decision-making, weird, just things that stood out to you that just like, what is going on over there?
Well, one thing I have noticed is that they are, it's at the risk of oversimplification, they're not making enough money. That's weird. Those games that got canceled, their reason is a changing financial environment. Which, if distilling it down, some of these other games we're selling didn't sell as much as we wanted, and like some of our DLC or as a service isn't making as much money as we'd like. So that financial environment changed. So these other games that we're not sure would sell super well, they're out. You know, we don't know how well Splinter Cell would do on the Oculus Quest. Or what was the other one? Ghost Recon Frontline?
We'll get to those in just a second. Let's talk.
Yeah, we don't know how well.
Yeah, let's talk about those in just a second. I do want to talk about. Let's talk about you talking about financial problems, because that's a good place to start. The last couple of entries they have put out, it's interesting they have not done well. The last Ghost Recon did not receive very well.
Breakpoint, yeah, it sucked.
Breakpoint did well. The Battle Royale futuristic game they were trying to do did not work out.
Hyperscape or something?
Hyperscape, yeah, that didn't do. that didn't do well. The newly released game that was been in the development for quite a while, that is Roller Champ. Apparently, it was late, but like no one's really talking about it. We'll get to that soon about that game soon.
I mean, hell, even the most they're doing is Rainbow Six Siege is doing well. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, Skull and Bones, a game that people really thought was canceled, just now popped out of nowhere. Well, not so much pop out of nowhere. It's one of those like, oh, you still exist. Because I really don't think anybody really cared about this game. Because I think because it was too much getting the backlash and too much of the connection to Assassin's Creed Black Flag. People would not get off that back of the Assassin's Creed. I'm like, this game cannot be his own game, apparently, because people keep putting Assassin's Creed Black Flag with it, of that anticipation and being disappointed, where Skull and Bone cannot be his own game because people want it to be this, and that sucks. Yeah, that really sucks for them for that situation.
Yeah, and so it sucked. It also sucks because they announced this long time ago, right around the time Sea of Thieves, came out. Sea of Thieves had its own problems, but now it's a playable game that people kind of still enjoy. So Skull and Bones really had that working against it. Mm-hmm. And their Ghost Recon didn't work. Watch Dogs Legion was okay, but it wasn't the high seller they wanted it to be. Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Especially, it was around the time they were released. I think it was the year. I forgot what games went with it, but they were releasing 2 or 3 games close to each other that year, kind of all just going against each other, and not spreading these games out release. Like you can't have 3 games coming out like a couple weeks after each other. That's just basically kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
It's cannibalizing your own sales, as they say. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Ubisoft kept pumping out games, yearly entries, instead of taking a moment to, stop, breathe, see what worked, what didn't work. But I don't know. I don't know why they kept doing that. Maybe they thought, if you just flood the market with your games, it'll all just come back to you. The money will come back to you. But people have Assassin's Creed fatigue. They liked Valhalla, Mm-hmm. They liked Valhalla better than Odyssey, Mm-hmm. But they're fatigued. They're fatigued with Ghost Recon. I tried playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint with some friends. We played like a few missions. I was like, man, this is just tedious. This is really tedious. Fatigue. Rainbow Six is still competitive, the Siege, mm-hmm. but what was that other one? Quarantine or whatever.
Now, we didn't talk. Now, let's not forget Far Cry. Far Cry is also under Ubisoft, and Far Cry is just there, right? Like Far Cry to me never got too much flack. I think Far Cry is Far Cry. They never really changed too much of the formula. People like that, but Far Cry is just Far Cry. When you hear a Far Cry game,
6 didn't do too well.
Not okay.
Didn't do horribly.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say like it did better than those other games, but still didn't do very well.
Far Cry 3. It was no Far Cry 3.
I don't think anything is going to be Far Cry 3, and I think that we have to get past that. Nothing. It's almost like Grand Theft Auto 5, what we talked about. And look, if you're going to have the biggest selling game ever, it's going to be hard to overcome that. The goal is to get close to that. Now, I don't know where Far Cry 6 is. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it did higher than 5. I don't know if it did higher than 4. But the point is that Far Cry's always been kind of steady to me. And it hasn't had any huge issues compared to Assassin's Creed or Ghost Recon. Like, you never heard people going in flacking Far Cry 6 in a bad way. Or humongous, murder it anyway. And, I can't speak for the DLCs, where there's all the villains and all that stuff. I can't speak for those. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, I mean, Far Cry 6, they said, even though the revenue, Ubisoft's revenue for the first half of 2022. It was down. Far Cry 6 was behind one of their best sales, best years ever. So Far Cry 6 sold well. Like I said, it didn't do horribly. It just did not, boom. It didn't explode like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Valhalla did.
Right. And you shouldn't expect that either.
But I shouldn't, sure. You shouldn't, sure. But the shareholders and the people who make decisions, if they're going to continue that series,
shareholders are shareholders, right?
And CEOs and everything like that who determine if we're going to go ahead with another project. That's where it counts.
Right, but if that's my counter to that, if that's the case, Far Cry should have been gone a long time ago. Cause it never exceeded ever. Then, in my opinion, it had never exceeded over an Assassin's Creed title. It's Far Cry never reached the peak of Assassin's Creed sales, and it never will be.
Yeah, I mean...
And so, as long as it makes it in the top 3, which I would put in the top 3 one of their best-seller series, I think that's good enough.
Yeah, it's let's see, Far Cry 6 digital sales are down 50% as of... I'm sorry. Digital sales for Far Cry. Wow, Far Cry 6 came out last year, didn't it?
Yes.
Wow. Holy crap. Time just really got away from me. But yeah, sales for that went down quick. There's a reason why Ubisoft games, about a month and a half to 2 months after they come out, you can get them for 30-40% off.
Right. But that's not the point we're getting at, right? We're talking about just a series alone, that Far Cry has been just a steady thing. I don't care about... Yeah. I'm not really caring about what the shareholders think. I'm just talking about, as gamers looking at the steady thing, you don't hear too much craziness coming about Far Cry compared to Ghost Recon or Assassin's Creed or all these other games that are getting a chance. Far Cry's still going. Assassin's Creed's still going. I put Far Cry up there in the top 3, one of their best series that has continued very well.
Oh yeah, they're going to make their money back at the very least.
Yeah,
and they're going to make enough money to justify not outright throwing it out. I mean, hell, you have Far Cry Primal, and that sucked, and they still kept going with another Far Cry game.
Yeah, because Primal was more of a side thing, kind of like Red Dragon or Blood Dragon or whatever.
But Far Cry Primal was sold as a standalone game.
I'm not saying what the price is. I'm telling you, like, as an entry, they don't consider it like a main entry. It's always been, I remember the pattern was like Far Cry main entry, then a side thing, then another one, then a side thing, and another one. Yeah. I'm not vouching the price thing. That's on them. So
no. I'm not talking about the price either. I'm talking about how Blood Dragon was. I don't recall. I guess it was sold.
The difference,
separately.
I'll tell you the difference. The difference was Blood Dragon was using the same engines out as Far Cry 3. Primal was using the same engine as 4.
Yeah, and then 5 had its DLC, which was side missions.
Yeah, the New Dawn or whatever the hell that one is. Yeah.
Well, no, not even that. Before that, it had other side DLC, and then New Dawn, which came out a year or two later, which was based on Far Cry 5's engine.
Yeah.
Which
so like I said.
Sucked.
Like I said, it's always a game and another one. Who knows if Far Cry 6 has spent another game they're going to use based on the Far Cry 6 engine. We don't know. And it will be a long time. Because they had too many other games working on it. I don't even care about Far Cry right now. But one of the biggest issues they are having against fans is the whole shutdown servers. You heard that news recently, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people
backpedal, but yeah.
Yeah. They're starting to backpedal, but I also I'm in a rock and a hard place about this way, because it's like I feel like sometimes gamers don't really care until they hear the news of it. Like I never heard anybody still using Assassin's Creed Liberation and all that kind of stuff servers. Now I could be 100% wrong. I just don't hear it until someone speaks out. It's almost like like Nintendo shutting the eShop. Now everybody's flocking to it, but if they're looking at it and there's no money in it.
Yeah.
And then
they announced it 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's like, look, there's no money going in it. We need to shut this down. And then, like, you can't do that. All these exclusive games are on there. It was like, well, you're putting us in a hard situation. So it's hard. Like, I get the gamer's point of view of it, but I also get from a company's point of view of it, of what what they have to do. And it doesn't mean that these games might come back in a different. We talked about it before. These games are probably going to come back in a different way. They're probably going to be part of the Nintendo Online thing. Shitty as people are going to.
And that's what pisses people off about this shutting down. It's like, it's not because it's shutting down. That's whatever. It's because they know that it's going to be resold to them in a different package down the line.
Yes.
Resold or added as another expansion pack on Nintendo's service.
But Ubisoft, I think, is doing it a little bit worse, where the game can be unplayable.
Yeah.
Now that sucks.
Yeah, checksums and whatnot when you start the game up. You can't even play it anymore.
Yeah. At least Nintendo,
that's what's pissing people off.
At least Nintendo's saying, like, look, we might close shop, but you can still re-download what you bought. You're fine.
Yeah.
In that aspect. It's shitty, that's still shitty. But at least they're not taking your way of playing it. But like Ubisoft, like, you won't be able to play any of this. And that's a little unfair.
It's anti-consumer. I mean, that's completely their business, but it's anti-consumer. And we all know what happens when you are viewed as anti-consumer. You get that EA reputation, that Activision reputation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, like the last couple of years leading up to now has been a really, really bumpy road for Ubisoft. But now I want to get to the meat of this. The games. What is going on with all these games being developed at Ubisoft? Where are they going? I don't know. But I want to sit and just talk about some of these games that been canceled, delayed, and still in production. So let's get the big elephant out of the room. Let's talk about the games that have been canceled. Which the big news that we heard a couple days ago as you were listening to this show, that 4 games been canceled. 2 of them have been unannounced. We'll never know what they are unless, someone managed to find a leak and find out what they are, which that's a possibility. It might be coming sooner than we think. Okay. But 2 of them, we have a VR game based on Splinter Cell, which I'm going to say it. I know I'm not a big Splinter Cell fan. I don't really play a lot of it, but I don't know if people are asking for this. I don't know, but I feel like no one was asking for this. And then you have another Ghost Recon game, Front Lines, that got canceled.
Yeah.
So 4 games that we know recently that has been canceled. Jaron, how do you feel about any of these titles, especially like the unannounced ones? Like, are you curious at all, or do you think that like whatever?
Not really. I'm not really curious about those unannounced games because clearly, if they're unannounced, that means they're not any of the games Ubisoft announced that I cared about. So you can't really miss or feel bad about something you didn't even know was there in the first place. But
let me ask you this: could those announced games be something based on part of a series? Might not be new IPs.
They could be, but what new series do you really think they're going to announce that's going to be like that much of a head turner? I mean, Assassin's Creed, maybe. Far Cry, another Far Cry title. Well, from what you said earlier, it wouldn't be a mainline entry; it'd be a little side game. And hypothetically, if that's the case, that's not going to be too terribly missed either. So I'm not shedding any particular tears, and that's probably because the lukewarm feelings for Splinter Cell VR or Ghost Recon VR, people aren't really shedding that many tears for it, and so if they're not shedding tears for what's announced, damn sure not going to shed any tears for what's unannounced.
Okay,
it's not really. I mean, I'll leave it at this. They got to conserve money. You can only have so many failures in a year.
Ghost Recon, I feel like, has been having an identity crisis. They're becoming the series that they experiment a lot on new ideas to, especially the biggest one. Their biggest hitter, the one that was set in like South America or whatever. I'm sorry.
Breakpoint?
Before Breakpoint.
Wildlands,
yeah. I think that was the one that really did pretty well for them. But after that, it just felt like that. Maybe it felt like cookie cutter. It felt like the same thing, just same thing, but just different place and whatnot.
Assassin's Creed with guns.
Yeah. Especially you go from that game from what was previous before. Ghost Recon was more of a futuristic game, right? It was supposed to be set more in the future of, like Ghost Protocol and all that kind of stuff.
Ghost Recon was supposed to, certain games notwithstanding, it was supposed to reflect the modern / bleeding edge of military technology.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's supposed to be a little bit further in the future than like the Rainbow Six, right? Per se. I always picture Rainbow Six being modern, and I always picture Ghost Recon a little bit ahead in the time.
Well, Ghost Recon may be a little bit ahead. Like, I know we're not talking like spaceships and lasers and shit like that, but Ghost Recon wasn't so far ahead that the technology didn't necessarily exist. It was based on what's the word? Speculative military technology.
So I guess my example would be for that is like in Rainbow Six, I don't remember ever having an ability to go, ghosts, right? Like the whole cloaking thing. That's what I mean. Like a little bit further, but yeah, I'm not talking about like in the year 3000 or something. I'm talking about like where technology has advanced a little bit more.
You're referencing Ghost Recon Phantoms and Future Soldier.
Yeah, that's what I was picturing first. And then it went totally a different direction and made it more modern. More of the whole, Sicario, Narc, all that kind of, that kind of style. And then it went to a different one within the jungle, per se. And then Frontlines, I don't even know what Frontlines was supposed to be. But
Frontlines was like more of a mountain valley, kind of valley jungle area as well.
It almost really felt like it was trying to do kind of like Far Cry, where it's just trying to do different other regions, but the same thing. And I think the problem is, in my opinion, is Far Cry does it so much that I don't think they want the same kind of treatment as Ghost Recon. Like, we have Far Cry that does the same thing over and over again. We have a crazy antagonist. We put you in this giant map, and you're basically going to do the same thing over and over and over again. Okay? I don't know if people want that in their Ghost Recon like that. Now, I'm only speaking for me. I'm not speaking for the community. I would love to hear the comments down below to say what is about Ghost Recon they are doing wrong. Is it the gameplay? Is it the shooting? Is it the repetitive? Because Wildlands to this reminds me of the playbook of Far Cry. We're just putting these people in a different region, and you're doing the same thing over again.
The gameplay loop is, well, I can tell you because I own Breakpoint, and I played a little bit of Breakpoint.
And you play Wildlands, right? You play Wildlands?
Yes, and I played Wildlands.
Okay.
Wildlands and Breakpoint have similar gameplay loops. Where Breakpoint lost me, where Wildlands did not. Breakpoint lost me in that it felt like it just dragged. The intro just dragged. It took forever to start getting into the game and doing the missions. Everything seemed overly complicated. The user interface was overly complicated. You have to check this, and then go over here, check this, and check this, and check this for all these different missions and equipment. And it was just a slog when all I wanted to do was try and somewhat get immersed in whatever kind of half-assed story they're trying to tell, and then get to shooting. And I'll put it this way. Ubisoft had the solution when they had The Division and The Division 2. That was great. Why do you overcomplicate it with Ghost Recon Breakpoint? It was just overly complicated, and it wasn't fun to play. It just wasn't fun to play.
Okay.
And to your point earlier about Ghost Recon games, kind of the tonal, going all the way back to, let's say, 2001, the first Ghost Recon game, they did, kind of Ghost Recon, Desert Siege, and Island Thunder, and then in the mid to late 2000s, early 2010s, you started getting the Advanced Warfighter, the Predator. They started going futurist. So it started modern bleeding edge, then started going future, like very near future, like you were saying. And now it seems like they're kind of pulling it back a little bit.
Okay.
So just for the pedantic people in the comments section.
So one of the announced games, me is kind of curious, wondering if a Rayman was in there.
That would break some hearts.
Mm-hmm.
That would break some hearts. It's like, hey, this cool platformer. Never mind.
We haven't had a Rayman, I think, over 7, 8 years now. I want to say. When was Rayman? Not Origins. Rayman
Legends.
I want to say
2011. That was
10 years ago. You say it's 2011?
Yeah, that was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm sorry. Scratch that. It came out in 2013.
Okay.
So it was 9 years ago.
Yeah, and we haven't had anything else ever since Michael Ishel. I'm butchering his last name, but he was the one behind that project, along with Beyond Good and Evil. And ever since he left, I think. And also, they also said like doing that gameplay and that artwork took a lot because that company UbiArt was gone. Because remember, people that remember UbiArt were the ones that did Valhalla. Variant Heart, I believe, the military game, and then Child of Light. They were the same studio. They were the same people that were doing that. So I don't know what happened to UbiArt.
I mean, for those who are like going, actually, yes, there was a Rayman game that came out in 2019 for Apple Arcade. It's not the same. Okay. It was developed by Ubisoft Montpellier, but it wasn't. How can I put it? It's a platform game, and he shrunk to the size of an ant, and it's for Apple Arcade. So it's one of those games as a service type.
I think a lot of people don't know that game did exist until you said that. I bet. Right? Yeah. But yeah, it does make me wonder because like when I think unannounced, I'm thinking of a game like maybe we haven't really heard in a long time because I know Rayman were great games, but I know they weren't like the huge money makers. They're not. I know, but I think they're clearly acclaimed, right? I think they're just great games for what they are.
It found its stride on the Wii, Wii U. Mm-hmm. Because the Rabbids,
Right. If you haven't played those, you should definitely play those. Those are so good. They're so good. But yeah, it's just interesting that 4 games got canceled. I think that maybe triggered this conversation. I'm like, you have so many other games in development. And games that are delayed that you're working on these 4 things. Like, can we work on these ones over here, the ones that are like still going? So let's talk about games that are delayed. So let's get the when we hear them talk about all these other big announcement games, like they got hype and then it went down. So let's talk about the one that got hit the hardest. And that's Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia got hit the hardest of this delay.
Time remake.
And the delay is due to the fan base that were not accepting this, to the studio that just couldn't do the job, and it got moved to another studio. Yeah. So when Prince of Persia got announced, I think in 2017, I believe it was 2017, give or take, and whatnot, remake. And no, it was 19. It was 19, I believe. I'm thinking.
I believe they announced it a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2019. And you had 2 eyes looking at this game. Your first look at it, well, for me, I can't speak for Jaron. Jaron has a different outlook for this. But when I first looked at the game, I'm like, oh, they're doing it. They're bringing it back. That's awesome. The hype look. You have the look of the hype. Like, you're excited. They're doing it. That's awesome. Prince of Persia has been out of the loop for the longest time because Assassin's Creed took over. Who knew Prince of Persia was ever going to come back? And they did it. The other glasses was the clear one where you're like, you guys can do a little bit better. This game deserves a little bit more love. It's not looking good. It's looking kind of wounded.
It looks like ass. It looked like ass, not worthy of being on PS4, much less PS5.
Yeah. So it immediately got delayed, I think, a couple of months after, due to the backlash or the feedback or whatever for a game. Then we didn't hear it for a while. Then it got delayed indefinitely until further notice, including the studio, I believe, Ubisoft India, Ubisoft something, or Ubisoft something. But they're the ones that no longer are doing it, and they are being. Another company is now taking control of that Prince of Persia. And that's nuts. That's nuts. Because who would have thought a game that old on the PS2 would be that hard to just give it a nice upgrade?
The studios were Ubisoft, Pune, and Mumbai.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, and you're right. It's basically pick a city, and there's Ubisoft.
Right? You can play bingo with this company.
Yeah, but yeah, it's the last news that I saw about it was June last month. It was delayed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're even saying, hey, if you want to get your pre-order back,
No,
get it.
No, and it's almost to the point where like, you know, it was going to be announced for last gen, but now I think they're trying to rework it for the next gen, including I would say the secret rumor of or whatever future Nintendo console that's going to come out. It'll probably come out for that by the time they decide to do this.
Oh, goodness.
And whatnot. But it did for me as a Prince of Persia fan. That sucks because I'm a huge Prince of Persia fan, and anytime they could like bring back an old style like that makes me really happy. But I get it too that I probably been even more disappointed when I play it. I'm like, this game deserves a little more love. Like Prince of Persia did help Ubisoft. Like I would say Assassin's Creed wouldn't exist without Prince of Persia in my own mind. So like Sand of Time really moved, and I think a lot of games definitely were influenced by Prince of Persia: Sand of Time. From the wall runs to the holding to the cliffs, all that kind of stuff, and that's just my humble opinion on that.
Yeah, it was the controls and the pacing. I mean, you see influences that with Uncharted, with the newer Tomb Raider games.
Yeah.
So yeah, and don't get me wrong, I have Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, the original version of it on the PS3, like downloaded.
Okay. I have the collection.
I would have loved to see it properly redone. I liked playing it as well. I beat that one. Didn't beat Warrior Within or the Two Thrones.
Yeah.
But I like Two Thrones over Warrior Within. But every time I hear Godsmack on the radio, I think of Warrior Within. So take of that what you will.
Yeah. War Within, I think any game that deserves to kind of get a retouch, redone, it would be War Within. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think they were just so into like, we got a sequel, we got to make it big,
I mean, yeah, you got, and you have to continue the story. It's like, okay, he cheated death, he kind of screwed with time. Things have to right themselves. Right. I understand that stuff.
Right. I meant more in the gameplay front, not the story.
Yeah,
more the gameplay front.
Yeah, I think. A lot of it became tedious. When I played that game, a lot of it just became tedious.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm running from the Dahaka again. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. But here's hoping that Prince of Persia is still going. Hopefully it's not going to get canceled, but whatnot. But it has been delayed. Along with another game that a lot of niche fans been waiting for. You shouldn't have announced it when it first came out, because when they first announced this game, they were really selling it. Like, hey, you could put advertisements in our game. I'm paraphrasing here, but you could be part of this development. You could be part of this creation in some sort of way. And I don't know what happened, but that's Beyond Good and Evil 2. A game that no one thought it was going to come. It got canceled a while back, actually, or not really canceled, but there were screenshots and trailers, but nothing officially being announced per se, I guess. Anybody can fact check me on there. But either way, we thought that was it. And that was the picture of, the two antagonists on this highway with an umbrella just sitting there waiting while the pig was just chilling, right? Then we fast forward and we get this trailer that takes it to an 11. Like, the graphics look great. It's supposed to be this open world, space world kind of thing, and everything like that. And we're now, I think, 13 years later of this game. And my theory, I still hold to this, and I think, Jaron, I don't know if you were with me or against me on it, but I thought, like, the reason why this game is taking too long, because it took too long at first, and we're already in the next gen, so I know they are switching everything up for this next gen. And I think that's the reason why it's taking so long. Especially when we first saw it on PS4, how massive this world was supposed to be. People flying around, everything. You're supposed to be able, like, I'm not going to say it's like No Man's Sky, you can leave the planet on the fly and go to another one. But it's supposed to be freaking massive. Like, This is a game I think it bit more than they can chew. And because it took so long that they needed to, like, go ahead and just, like, well, we need to roll this over to the next gen, or it's just we're just going to be behind on it. What's your thoughts?
Which game was this again?
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Beyond Good and Evil 2? Man, that is like the carrot that they're dangling. It's a carrot they're dangling in front of everybody.
That carrot has not been dangling for a cool minute.
Yeah, but it's still dangling. It's still dangling. And they got people hyped up in 2018 and 2019. You know, they're kind of just trickling out little pre-rendered trailers that have nothing to do with gameplay and teasing, oh, Jade turn evil. Oh, speculate on that for another year and a half, nerds. You know.
That's so mean.
Yeah,
nerds.
It is.
Nerd is just a harsh word, and when you say it in anger, nerd. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at some of the thumbnails for Beyond Good and Evil 2 on YouTube. People are like, oh no, what's it gonna go? Yeah. You drop a trailer, you got like 2 weeks of content. But they're not going to cancel the game. But I am 50-50 between them releasing it on late this gen or just letting it quietly fade, where they never say it's actually canceled, but they never bring it up again.
That's possible. That's highly possible. It's possible now.
Yeah, like I said, I'm 50-50 on that because, like you said, how many years since they announced
about 13 years.
Mm-hmm. You know, there are people who have had kids, and those kids are old enough to now wonder, where's Beyond Good and Evil 2? Dad, you keep telling me about it all the time. You told me you told me Grandpa got you the first game when you were little.
And that makes me wonder too, of circling back, could one of those other unannouncements could have been a Beyond Good and Evil remake to kind of bring it down? Nope. For people that are, if you're watching this video, do not let that thought go in your head. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's really true.
I thought they did an HD.
They did, but I think at this point, when you're so much in development, like, here's the thing, right? 13 years.
Assets.
Yeah, 13 years. If you're going to delay a game or been working on that game for that long, it better be something impressive when you show, or you better give us something that goes on. It's almost like the new Metroid 5 is there to kind of help soften the blow until Metroid 4 comes out. Like, Beyond Good and Evil remake would help soften that blow a little bit, just so people know, hey, it exists.
I guess to get people hyped again, yeah.
Or just to say it's still there and people can at least get their chance on playing. Because, like, I think the only place you could play that game now is on PC or on your Xbox 360 or your PlayStation 3 as the HD edition. There's no other place you could play it. So your best bet is probably PC.
Is it forward compatible if you have it digitally? I thought it was forward compatible with, but it doesn't matter. It's all academic. It is kind of trapped in the past on previous consoles. Mm-hmm. So it would be nice if they dragged it back up to the the current generation. That could be an unannounced game. They were going to leave it as a surprise. I'm not going to put that out there in the universe, but it would track with them not saying anything about Beyond Good and Evil 2 in 3 years, going on 3 years now. They haven't really said anything. Because
you also forget Wild. They finally admit Wild was canceled. I believe they're the ones that made that game, and that game was quietly in development for a long time at Ubisoft, and they finally admit, like, yeah, it's canceled.
Yeah. Well, and this will probably have to go towards a different episode, the theory of it, but we are in an age where AAA games, like developing AAA games with AAA studios, it's so expensive, it's prohibitively expensive to where they are going to really mitigate risk. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why you're going to get sequels and remakes and remasters of AAA mainline titles. Right. And you're seeing the rise of A and AA, games, indie, and that are doing phenomenally well. Mm-hmm. Like freaking Fall Guys could have been made in a cave with a box of scraps, and it's doing excellent. Mm-hmm. Valheim, indie game, doing great. Devolver, you can't call them an indie studio anymore or indie publisher and studio anymore because they're on everybody's lips. But you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So one day, have to get into that, but that's also behind some of the reasons I believe that Ubisoft is kind of taking a hatchet to a lot of these games. It's too expensive and it's too much of a risk.
Right.
Beyond Good and Evil, the first one, you already know, it didn't do too well. It got a cult following, but it didn't do too well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think that's the mindset, right? We didn't think, and maybe a lot of people that were thinking Beyond Good and Evil 2 was not going to be that massive when they saw it. You know, they thought it was going to be just another straight fun story with your characters, not this huge massive story that's supposed to be this epic thing. Like, I didn't see it coming that way. I thought it was just going to be like, you know, the two leading characters going on another crazy adventure, and that's it, you know. But what they're trying to aim for is pretty crazy because, you know, maybe No Man's Sky is an influence to that. Maybe they saw No Man's Sky and just said, like, maybe we can do something big with that. We can explore more. I don't know. But when this game ever get released, I will definitely want to I hope they have a behind the scenes, like, making of that game. 'Cause I would like to see what the hell were they doing those 13 years and what is going on. So let's talk about the last one. The one that is the least, no one really cares. Like, when it first got announced, like, who cares about this game? And it's Tom Clancy X Defiant. When this game first came out, it was all like neon, tie-dye, not tie-dye, but like neon shooting kind of game. I think it's 3-on-3 kind of game. No one cared about this game. I didn't see any hype for it, and it disappeared quick, and it got delayed. Yeah. That's
Apex
the game.
Legends already beat it to the punch.
That game, to me, feels like that should have been canceled based on the crowd's reaction to that. So, I have nothing to say about this game.
They're like, boo.
Yeah. I have nothing to say about this game. Do you have any thoughts about this game?
I'm just going to straight up say, on its face, I know nothing about this game aside from it's based on factions and factions that happen to have been mentioned in previous Ubisoft games like The Division and things like that. So, I don't know if it's supposed to be like its version of Tom Clancy's All-Stars. It's All-Stars. Yeah. It's own multiverses or what, but I don't care.
So
this game died in a fire.
So people are watching this. I made a mistake. I kind of jumped around. I was looking at my list and I didn't pay attention to what categories. So let me change some stuff up real quick for y'all. Are Beyond Good and Evil 2 and Tom Clancy X Defiance are actually not technically been delayed. I apologize that they're in development. We haven't heard.
In development with no news.
Yeah, with no news. I apologize for that. I was looking at my list and I was like, I'm just going off the next thing that I see on my list. So, but since we're in this flow of stuff, minus Prince of Persia, we'll go ahead and talk about the last thing on in development. And we'll go back and finish off the delays. The other one in development
Star Wars.
Is the Star Wars. The one that it announced as soon as you found out that EA no longer has the license to Star Wars. We heard this announcement. And that's it. Poof. Gone. Nothing else. I don't know what kind of game it's going to be. If I had to guess, Jaron, I think it's going to be an open world kind of like adventure game. I don't think it's going to be a first person shooter or anything like that. I think it's going to be like in the same format. I'm not saying like Ghost Recon, but I'm saying like an open world style like that, but you might be a Jedi or a bounty hunter or whatever you want to be.
Yeah, imagine how interesting it could be. I'm not saying great, but interesting it could be if it did the Jedi thing, if it went along the lines of Assassin's Creed and you were a Sith assassin, that style,
yeah.
Or if it didn't do any of the Jedi Sith kind of stuff, you were just a normal, soldier or whatever. It went the Ghost Recon route, skills. You work in a squad, almost like a spiritual successor to Republic Commando. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Rainbow Six, but with Star Wars, they could do it. They put the right team on it. They could do it. That would be badass.
Mm-hmm. I believe they already have a developer doing it. I think it's Massive Games, the same people that did The Division. I believe they're the ones in charge of this game.
Okay, then you can have some over the shoulder Star Wars action.
Mm-hmm.
That could still be interesting. I don't know if it would be a day one banger, so to speak, but that can still be an interesting take, because I'm not going to say people have Jedi fatigue, but it would not hurt to have a different look at a different side of the Star Wars universe. Mm-hmm. So, okay. But I think in general, certain shows notwithstanding, people have Star Wars fatigue anyway.
Okay.
All right. So Ubisoft's probably just keeping this in their back pocket.
But just a reminder for people, like, they are doing a Star Wars game, and we don't know. Yeah. But I bet you money that game will come out before Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, yeah. I predict it'll come out in the next 2.5 years.
I think they said 24, I think. You might have to look it up, but I believe it's like 24, I think they said.
But it's Ubisoft, so it's going to get delayed to 2025. So that's why I said 2.5.
Yeah. So let's finish off the last two ones, and they're in the delay category. Recent news. Let's talk about the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So that one got delayed to 2023, and I don't know how successful this game would have been, but there's still diehard Avatar fans out there, and we will find out. We will find out more when this movie comes out, really how hard these diehards are going to come. Because if this movie does very, very well, I'm going to be quiet. Because I'm like, hey, these diehards exist. And so maybe the game would be, because I don't know how much the last Avatar game that ever been created did. I don't know. But this one here, I mean, who knows what the idea was? Because, it's always been a good idea to release a game close to when the movie's coming out to help promote it, regardless if you don't like the game or not. It's just a tactic that always seems to go well for these kind of style games. I could tell you're not really interested in this. I'm not really interested in this, but I think there is probably a fan base that's been waiting to play this game. So,
of course.
So
there's a fan base for Schoolgirl Zombie Hunter too. Doesn't make it a great game.
Well, we don't know if it's good or bad. We don't know. I don't want to jump the gun here, just because I'm not a big fan of it. But I think it sucks that you get a game that's pushed back after the movie. That I bet this game was supposed to help tie it in what you've been doing, what's been going on since the first one and the second one, right?
Yeah.
So especially this was supposed to be Ubisoft's. I think their game they were trying to push forward for this fall, right? This was their money-making game for the fall with the connection of a movie, regardless if you might not care about it, but it's going to probably do pretty well. Maybe not as well probably the first one. Yeah. Well, yeah, a movie, but with the game, pushing the game to be with it, could still push it very well. I still think they would have made 1 million copies. I could probably guarantee that based on that connection of the movie. So,
yeah, no, I mean, it would sell. It would sell. I mean, and I'm not going off of just because I don't care about it. I'm going off of previous performance, which you should be careful of doing, but I'm still going off of previous performance of Avatar games. Those previous Avatar games, those are the kinds of games that you eventually see in a bin at Dollar General.
Right.
So, I don't have high hopes for this one, and I will be surprised if it sells more than 1 million copies. I will be incredibly surprised, even with all the marketing.
Well, not now.
Will be surprised.
Well, not now, but I thought with that date it would work out. I think because that game was supposed to be set on there. Now, with the Avatar movies planning to come out every year after this one, that's what I thought they were kind of doing the flagship of that one, because who knows? We don't know how well the sales going. You're releasing a game in 2023 that is going to be somewhere on the lower hype of Avatar. If this movie bombs, which it won't, but if the movie doesn't exceed their expectations, then this game is not going to thrive either. It might be one of those games where it could be a great game, but people didn't get it because they didn't like the movie or whatever. There has been games out there based on
like Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, they're really good they're fun games, but they don't sell well because they weren't in the hype of that time.
Yeah. A bad movie can drag down a good game. A bad game can't drag down a good movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it sucks because, as a company, it sucks that this game was announced a couple of years ago, and now they have to push that back because the goal was we want to release this game with the movie, and that kind of sucks in that aspect. And so, and the last one on the list for games that got delayed is Assassin's Creed Rift, which we know nothing about.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's going to... I think rumor has it was going to be like a ongoing game, like live service or something like that. That's what I heard. Hint the name Rift. But I don't know if it's supposed to be a game of service game or... Because when I think of Rift, I'm thinking like, okay, you're probably gonna play a different Assassin's Creed from different times for something.
Oh boy, you get some Assassin's Creed Syndicate with some Assassin's Creed 2. Yeah, that's gonna be. It could be interesting, but
you could get. I'm comparing it more of the multiplayer, but you could have got the idea that they got from Assassin's Creed
Brotherhood.
No, the one after, the one you can actually like play online with friends. The one that was set in France.
Oh, Unity.
Yeah, hence the name Unity. Maybe this is the idea they're doing it, but make it its own thing. So it's a possibility. But as you know, if people have been following me, or you'll know now, is I'm not really in Assassin's Creed anymore. I stopped after Odyssey, so I retired from Assassin's Creed.
I saw the light fade from your eyes when talking about it. It was like Assassin's Creed Rift.
Yeah. So, but like I said, what's your thoughts? Is that interest you at all? What do you think the Rift is?
Dude, I still have yet to crack into Assassin's Creed Origins or Odyssey or Valhalla. Rift, they could actually pull some futuristic crap out of their behinds, and I wouldn't be surprised. If it's Rift. Actually, screw it. Let's say Rift. They mean Rift between countries. You play different assassins during various countries' civil wars. Boom.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. All right. I see what you did there. Okay. If that really happens, that's hilarious. So
I'm like, wow, maybe I should be working for Ubisoft. I couldn't do any worse.
But that's really it for the Ubisoft. So just our final thoughts, Jaron. Where do you... Let me see how I can phrase it. What do you think is going to happen next for Ubisoft, in your opinion, going forward? Do you think that some games are going to get canceled? More games are going to get canceled? Do we think some of these games are going to get a release date? What's your overall thoughts of Ubisoft going forward?
Ubisoft's going to be trimming a lot of fat. Ubisoft is going to be closing a lot of extra studios or reducing the capacity of several of their studios. The ongoing internal drama notwithstanding, Ubisoft has been not aching, but hurting a little bit in the pocketbooks as far as a proper money maker. They have their Rainbow Six Siege. They have Far Cry 6, which was, to my surprise, more of a success than I realized. And I'm getting old because I thought it came out this year, but whatever. So Ubisoft is going to be tightening their belts, and I think that this is just the beginning. They're going to announce a few titles that few people really care about, that they're going to give a real big stink about, just to see how things go. The whole disabling servers for the Assassin's Creed Liberation. Nobody was playing Liberation, but the fact that people who owned it wouldn't be able to play it anymore didn't sit well, and they screamed. So Ubisoft across the board is just cut. Mm-hmm. We're probably going to get down to maybe 2-3 Ubisoft games a year at most.
Okay,
if that.
I think Ubisoft is getting too much in their own way. I'd say the same thing with EA. I think EA sometimes get in their own way of the stuff they do. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think as you're looking at they're cutting down to save money, I feel the same way, but I think some studios are going to get shut down. I think some studios are going to get shut down. I think some more games are going to get canceled.
Yes.
I think that's what I feel like it's going to see. Except your big ones, the ones that put the money. Avatar's definitely, it's been delayed, but it's not going to cancel. There's too much money. There's too much money in there.
Yeah. Licensing.
Basically, your movie games are not going away. So your Star Wars is not going away. But I have the itch that you put on me And I think I might be on the boat. And I think I want to say this because I want to be wrong and be excited. And I think Beyond Good and Evil 2 will probably be canned at one point, or secretly canned, and we just don't know. But I want to be wrong, so I'd be excited again. And then I can say, I can come back on the show and celebrate, like, hey, this is great, and talk about it.
It would be nice if they showed even just a 2-minute gameplay trailer this fall. Their Ubisoft Forward is in September. Mm-hmm. They do have their little event in September. Mm-hmm. If we don't hear anything from Beyond Good and Evil 2 in September at that event, I'm saying it's shh.
And I think lastly for me, I think Ghost Recon is going to be on the shelf for a while. I think that there's been too many tries at Ghost Recon, and Ghost Recon needs to just go away for a long time until people miss it. And like work on something else. Because now I feel like a lot of these games are hitting dead ends. Like, I don't know where you can go next for Watch Dogs after Legion. Like, I don't know what the next idea they're going to do. We don't know where that's going to go. We don't know.
That's on the shelf too, I think.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, because Legion came out how many years ago?
I want to say it was 19. No, not 19. 20. I want to say 2020. 2020.
Google on the wall. What's the info after all?
So,
Watch Dogs Legion came out in. It was initially released 2020.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember it was going to be earlier, 19, but then they pushed it back to 2020 fall, along with other games. But that's what I kind of see. I think Ubisoft is going to definitely do that. I can see why they kind of hint of like we wouldn't refuse being bought. But the question is too, like, who wants to buy you right now with all this shit going on? Like, there's just so much shit going on. If anybody buy you, a lot of things are going to get canned. Like, he's like, we got to slash this. Because like we talked before, like, name a country that Ubisoft doesn't name after. Like, what are they all doing over there? How do you have these many studios and, like, none of these games? It's like they got the smallest team in the world working on these big epic games or something like that. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, they need to get their house in order.
Yeah.
And it probably means shutting down, let's say, a third of their studios and reallocating resources, but they also they go where they could maximize your results, minimize your costs. Unfortunately, you get what you pay for sometimes.
Yeah.